Hi, hello, I'm Madison, the Sidereal Maven, and today I'm going to be talking to you all about your rising sign. So, the rising sign, also referred to as the ascendant, is the constellation that was rising on the horizon at the time that you were born, okay? This constellation moves and changes about every 2-ish hours, which is why it's really important to get your exact birth time down to the minute when calculating your birth chart, regardless of what system you are using, okay? If you don't have your rising sign, you can't calculate your houses, and you are literally missing like half of your birth charts. But don't worry, if you're someone who doesn't know your exact birth time, I got you covered. If you go onto my Patreon page in the Astro 101 collection, there is an article called No Birth Time, No Problem. Go read that. Feel free to ask me questions about it, okay? So, the rising sign is super important because it's the first thing that people are going to see when they look at you and when they meet you. It's their first impression of you. Because the rising sign really serves to represent your personality and your self-expression, all right? This is the way that you walk, the way that you talk, it's your fashion sense, it's your style. Do you have piercings? Do you have facial scars? Do you wear a lot of jewelry? Do you monochrome your outfits? Do you like to wear something wild and crazy? This is what the rising sign is all about. But it also kind of goes a bit deeper than that because it's saying like, this is who I am. This is how I understand myself. This is how I present myself to you, and this is what I want you to know about me, right? So I think that is something that is super, super interesting. And when you are Googling astrology, you will sometimes see the rising sign referred to as an outer armor or a mask. Personally, I don't like these definitions because it kind of gives you this idea that the rising sign is not your most authentic self, and I feel like that's not true. I feel like the rising sign is actually like one of the most authentic things about you. For example, like I choose to dye my hair red. You see me as someone with big red hair. I have a big personality. I choose to put on a lot of glittery makeup because I'm a sparkly bitch, okay? You know, so like these are things that I like about myself that I want to present to you, that I want you to know about me. And maybe my hair dye and my makeup isn't natural, but it is like a huge part of like who I am and how I see myself and how I want you to see me. So the rising sign is interesting and it's fun to explore. And just because it's what's visible on the surface, and we know that like people are so much deeper and so much more that more than their appearance can show you, it doesn't mean that their appearance is somehow some sort of lie designed to trick you, okay? People present themselves the way they present themselves for a reason, and that's something I really love to explore and I want to talk about today. So today I'm going to go through all 12 rising signs. If that's something you want to hear, stick around, all right? If you are an Aries rising, then at first glance, you are someone that appears to be very energetic, very strong, and someone who is capable of accomplishing whatever they put their mind to. In fact, you can sometimes come off as so determined and so focused on your goals that it kind of gives you a little bit of like a resting bitch face. But I promise you, swear to God, with most Aries risings behind that I have so much to do right now face is one of the sweetest, nicest, and kindest people you've ever met. Something else you will notice about Aries risings is they tend to be pretty athletic and focused on their fitness and their health. They're someone who puts a lot of thought into their nutrition, into their diet, into their exercise. And even if they're someone who isn't athletic, they're definitely a busybody, someone who has something going on all the time. Their schedule is packed. They've got so many things they're trying to do that it can be very difficult to capture this person's attention and have them sit down and just focus on you for a short period of time. And when you are talking to an Aries rising, you'll notice they're someone that is very candid and very direct. They're not someone that lies very often because they just don't want to put in the effort. And instead, they're just going to tell you the way that they feel. They're going to tell you what it is. It is what it is. And they're going to be very passionate about the things that they enjoy. They're not someone that can just casually talk about their interests. Instead, they are like eyes sparkling, voice raised, jumping up and down, like super into whatever it is. And it's so cute, honestly. And they can also be like super lighthearted. Aries risings are the type that kind of want to keep it light. They want to make a joke. They want to keep focused on their goals, keep it rolling. And they're also someone who views themselves as like very hardworking and competitive. They're like a self-starter, an entrepreneur, a free spirit that can't be tied down. You know, Aries is like, I got things to do. I don't have time to sit around and wait for permission. Aries also, because they're always on the move, they tend to wear more like casual or athletic clothing. Even if they're not a super athletic person, they may tend to wear athleisure just because it's more comfortable and functional. And overall, they tend to choose function over fashion. But that doesn't mean that they don't like to get cute, okay? It means that they're going to have like key statement pieces. For example, they really like boots. You may find them wearing like Doc Martens. They like the like heavy military jackets, some like chunky necklaces, things that look a little industrial, something looks a little punk, a little grunge. They can be into the more alternative clothing, especially like that 2016's grunge era, if you know what I'm talking about. That was very Aries. And also they tend to want to wear a lot of red. You're probably wearing red right now if you're an Aries. I've clocked you, you've got something red on, okay? If you are a Taurus rising, then at first glance, you are someone who appears to be very calm, sociable, warm, creative, and quite frankly, really popular. Taurus risings are the type of people that are always surrounded by people at all times. And if you are hanging out with them, their phone is blowing up with constant notifications and messages and missed calls. And therefore, it can be really difficult to capture a Taurus rising's attention because, well, everybody wants it, okay? And the thing is that Taurus risings are very sensitive and affectionate and loving people. They care about what other people are thinking and what they're feeling and, you know, if they're having a good time. They're the type of people who want to focus on the good things in life rather than stressing about what is not. So they're focused on making art, on consuming art, on supporting artists that they enjoy. They want to spend time with their friends. They like to go out for a nice dinner. They like to cook. They like to relax. They like to go to a party. So Taurus is definitely like the little socialite of the zodiac, but especially the rising sign. There is something about a Taurus rising that is just considered to be conventionally attractive. And this is like pretty universal across Taurus risings for some reason. There is always something about them that is considered like very popular within the culture that they grow up in or that they exist within, that just makes people gravitate towards them and want to be a part of their inner circle because they got it going on. The Taurus rising self-expression tends to be very serene and very soothing and very deliberate. They're not someone who talks fast like da 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 da. Instead, they want to slow down. They're very intentional with what they say. They may be someone who says less is more, and they're probably not going to repeat themselves, so you better shut up and listen to what they're saying. And they're also someone who views themselves as very persistent and practical and patient. So they may be someone who has a goal, but they're not going to go like 0 to 100 the way that Aries does. Instead, they're going to take it a little bit at a time, every day. Slow and steady wins the race just as much as everyone else, you know. And they want to relax after a hard day of work. They're not going to keep working and working and working themselves to the bone because guess what? It's time to go lay down with a bucket of ice cream and watch Heated Rivalry. And they're also someone that considers themselves to be like super approachable and friendly to everyone they meet. And they're the type of person where if they're at work or they're in a social situation and they don't like the people that they're around, they're so good at faking it and playing nice with people that they don't like, and that other person will never know. So watch the Taurus risings. They like you until they don't. But Taurus rising fashion is usually very artistic and romantic. These are the poets, okay? They like the billowy sleeves, they like the sundress, they like the pale, sheer type of fabrics, something comfortable but sexy, okay? They make comfortable look sexy. They want the sensual flair. And even the men like to get dressed up. These are the type of men that like, they've got the pinstripe suit. It's an interesting color. These are the men that show up to the Met Gala and everyone's like, they understood the assignment because they actually put in some effort. They've got the hat, they've got the watch, they've got the glasses, and they've put a lot of thought into the way that they look. And they're always down to get dressed up for a special occasion. And they will not wait for a special occasion to do it. They will outshow you at Walmart, and there's nothing you can do about it. And something else a Taurus rising will do is they will be like the first or most likely person to wear an article of clothing or jewelry or something that symbolizes a group that they belong to. So if they're in a book club, they may wear a shirt for that book club. If there's a bar that they go to all the time, they're going to buy a t-shirt for that bar, assuming that it's aesthetically pleasing and matches the rest of their wardrobe. And maybe also the most likely to only buy clothes within a specific color palette so that they're always matching. So that's what I got for Taurus risings. If you are a Gemini rising, then you are someone who at first glance appears to be very inquisitive, very active, very social, and very knowledgeable. You are the type of person who is down to talk about anything, anywhere, at any time with anybody, and can get stuck in long, drawn conversations with complete and total strangers. The type of person who gets into a conversation at the grocery store and you feel like this person is your best friend. You just met a Gemini rising. And something else about Gemini risings is that they often tend to appear much younger than they actually are. They tend to have very youthful, round features that really just kind of like adds to this like razzle dazzle that they got going on, because it feels like you just met the cutest puppy in the whole world. And I mean that in the best way possible, okay? I love Gemini risings. Their self-expression is super curious, it's clever, it's playful. They can be super sarcastic and lighthearted and funny. They like to poke jokes, and they can also be very witty. So something about Gemini risings is they will just throw a joke in there and wait to see if you get it. And if you do, then you're their person. And if you don't, then you're not. And they can also sometimes like insult you so casually that you don't even notice it because they're so good at it. It's hot, right? When they do that. I'm biased. Yes, so Gemini is someone who also like views themselves as super open-minded and intellectual and knowledgeable. They love learning. They are kind of like the internal student of the zodiac. So they may be someone who reads a lot, who watches a lot of documentaries, who goes to school to get degree after degree after degree, who keeps taking classes long after they no longer need to just because they love it. And they can be someone who either listens to a lot of podcasts, or they may host a podcast or something of the sort, because they just want to talk and communicate and share what they're thinking and what they're feeling all of the time. And so they may also be someone who journals a lot because of that. And Gemini risings are also people who like flit through different social circles super easily. Super hard to tie them down because they always want to know more people and get more perspectives and more opinions on whatever it is that is interesting them that day. And they also are like always down for an adventure no matter what it is. as long as it can turn into a good story later, they're like, okay, let's go. Whatever it is, let's go. I'm gonna tell the story later. And something else about Gemini rising is that they tend to wear clothing that they think is going to communicate their knowledge or their skill set or something that they feel really confident in. But they can also be like super eclectic and change their minds about what they want to present from day to day. So one day they're going for like sexy librarian and they've got their glasses on and they've got their nice press suit and they're ready to tell you all about their latest niche interest. And there are other days where they're like, no, actually I want to dress like a rock star. Actually, no, the next day I want to go like full cottagecore. I'm on a farm. I'm learning about plants today. This is what I like. And they will switch it up from day to day. So it can be really hard to pin down a Gemini rising, except for the fact that they're literally always changing what they like. But they also will go for accessories. They like the little jewelry. They like rings, especially a Gemini rising will wear a lot of rings, or they'll have lots of piercings all the way up their ears. Just eclectic and contradictory and fun and joyful, and they're gonna wear a t-shirt with a funny saying on it, hoping that it starts a conversation and they get to talk to you about it. So yeah, I love Gemini risings, one of my favorites, I won't lie. So that's what I got for you. If you are someone who is a Cancer rising, then at first glance, you are someone who appears to be very magnetic and mysterious, and yet somehow also nurturing and very deeply attuned to your own inner emotional world. You're someone who's very sensitive and soft and affectionate, but you could also at the same time be super guarded, because you know that you have that soft, loving, beautiful heart and not everyone deserves to have a piece of it. And so you got to keep your walls up sometimes, and it can be hard to get to know you because you don't trust everyone with your soft self. It's so true. The thing about Cancer risings is their self-expression is super artistic and it's playful, and it can be very like whimsical even. When I think of Cancer, I often think of like whimsigoth, sometimes like that kidcore, the rainbow palettes, pastels, chalk on the sidewalk. Like they're someone who is so in tune with their inner child, and they're also very attuned to the part of themselves that is very like soft and relaxed and grounded and ready to just like nurture themselves and the world around them. They care about everything else around them. They care about their friends, they care about their family, they care about their pets, they care about like the physical earth that they live on and the land that they're on. And they take the time to like slow down and appreciate all of these things and show love towards these people, because it's very important to them to like feel attuned to everything and grounded, because if they're not, they can get really stuck in their head and get anxious. And so it's very important for them to like ground themselves within their body and within their world. So that being said, Cancer risings care a lot about their health. They care a lot about their body. They care about exercise. They care about staying on top of any medical routines that they have. They care about like skincare. They care about their beauty, their hair. Like they are really attuned to their wellness and focused on their wellness in the best possible way. And they're very good at like nurturing their own selves and also like picking up on when other people need to be nurtured. Like they're like the first to pick up on other people who have a tummy ache or they're tired that day and they don't feel good. Like Cancer notices, and then they're first to be like, hey, like, are you okay? Are you good? Do you need something? And then whatever you need, they will try to help you figure out what that is. And they can either be like super soft spoken and quiet, or they could be like really embodied. It really depends on like what else is going on in their chart. But overall, they're very sensitive. They can be cautious, but also generous at the same time with their time and their energy and their affection. And Cancer rising's definitely a homebody. you have to have a really good reason to pull them out of their house, especially if they already had to work that day. They're like, no, I'm done, I'm off. And when they leave their house, they want it to be like a special event. They want to like be going to a nice dinner party. They want to be going to a concert. They want to have something really exciting to do. Otherwise, it's just not worth their time when they could be spending relaxing and taking care of themselves. So that being said, Cancer rising fashion tends to be soft, it tends to be comfortable, and it tends to be casual. They're definitely someone who likes loungewear. Maybe they like athleisure. They like the sweaters. They like a cardigan, okay? And they like fuzzy socks, you know, and just like casual, comfortable clothing. And they tend to be inspired by like muted or beachy colors, pastels, or like soft earth tones. And something else you will notice about a Cancer rising is that they have a lot of accessories. They got the sweater, they got the flannel, they got the rings, the jewelry, hair pieces, scarves. Like, there was some quote, I can't remember what the quote is, but it was like, take something off before you leave the house to make sure your outfit looks good. Cancer puts something else on. They're putting more and more on. Because they like to express themselves through tiny little trinkets, which is so adorable. Love a Cancer rising. If you are someone who is a Leo rising, then you are someone who at first glance appears to be very creative, very artistic, very bold, assertive, and opinionated. In fact, you are someone who's very confident expressing your opinions and how you feel and what you think, even if you're in a room full of people that don't agree with you or who don't share your experiences or perspectives. You are so confident in your delivery that even if you were saying something that was totally wrong, you have a way of convincing people that you're right because you deeply care about the things that you say and you deeply care about your opinions. And you're also very charismatic and charming and energetic and passionate that it is almost like people can't help but to be moved by you. I don't know if you know that, Leo, but lots of brain power, lots of social power with this sign. Not to mention they have these huge megawatt smiles that are literally infectious. If a Leo rising is smiling, everyone else wants to smile too. And they're also very good at telling a good joke or telling a good story. They can be very entertaining in their delivery. And there's someone who is very like authoritative and idealistic in a way that makes them really good for different leadership positions because they have the vision and they know how to articulate it, and they're not afraid to dictate tasks to employees or to coworkers to get a job done, and they're not afraid to be the person to step up and take the lead, especially if no one else is going to do it. They're like, well, I have the skill, so why shouldn't I? And Leo risings are also people who are very faithful and generous and affectionate. So kind of like Taurus rising, it can be very difficult to get into their friend groups or into their inner circle because they are super popular and everyone wants a piece of their time and attention. But if a Leo rising chooses you, they are a ride or die friend. There is nothing that they won't do for you. And no one that they won't beat up in your name if you say that they have hurt your feelings. They're the type of friend that will look at your new partner and say, you better treat them nicely or you have me to deal with. In the best way possible, of course. And Leo risings also tend to like have very prominent hair. You may notice that they have like really long hair, or maybe they have like super big curly hair, or maybe they've dyed it a bold color, maybe it's an unnatural color, or they may have like a cut that is super unique that can only belong to them. And they take a lot of time developing like a really unique signature style that cannot be replicated by other people and that leaves a lasting impression. So if you ever watched Zoe 101, Zoe had like her dorm room key as a necklace that she wore every day. And so anytime you saw that, you would think of Zoe 101 when someone else wore a key on a necklace. That's kind of the thing that Leo rising does, is they have like some sort of accessory or makeup look or hairstyle that leaves like a legacy behind. When you see it, you can only think of them, and that's what they want. They just want to be thought of fondly and affectionately, which is so cute. And they are also like the most likely zodiac sign to have their zodiac sign tattooed somewhere on their physical body. Whether it's just like a little Leo sign or they go like full lion, whatever. Leos love being Leos, and they want it tattooed. They want it on their t-shirt, they want it on their tote bag, they want it on their bracelet. Like, they love bragging about their zodiac sign, and it's because they know they are so pretty and cool. And they also are like most likely to buy like really outrageous fashion, like a leather pants or some crazy boots, just to go to a party one time. And they will make up more reasons to wear it just so that they can be ridiculous. And they also maybe own something in leopard print. So that is all of my thoughts on Leo rising. If you're a Virgo rising, then you are someone who at first glance appears to be very intelligent, competent, shy, and soft-spoken. In fact, you can kind of come off a bit like a shy, nerdy bookworm who is lost in your book or lost in your task, who's very neat and orderly and quiet, but when someone comes up to you and starts a conversation, you are then suddenly like bubbling and overflowing with things to say and questions to ask and advice to give, because you are someone who, like Gemini, you love learning, you love education, you love teaching, and you love helping other people. Like, acts of service is the #1 Virgo love language. They're the first to ask, hey, do you need help with that? Do you want me to do this for you? And they're also like Cancer. If they notice that you aren't doing well, they're the first to stop and ask if you're okay, if you need help, or if you need a break. And even if you just like can't get your house clean, Virgo will come over and help you clean your house, like no questions asked, and they will make it really fun to do. And similar to Gemini, Virgos also tend to look way younger than they actually are. They tend to have like rounded features, soft faces, sometimes kind of like mousy faces. Like, there's just like this youthfulness about them that can sometimes lead to other people like really underestimating them and their capabilities, which can be very frustrating for Virgo, especially because they are someone who does not surface level learn things. They dive deep into whatever they want to know, and they will practice and practice and practice and practice until they become an expert at whatever it is, which is why they appear so confident and competent in whatever it is they're working on. But yeah, frustrating experience for Virgo where they can walk into a grocery store and have people ask, hey, do you work here? You seem like you know things. And well, yes, they do most of the time, but do they work there? No. And then in other circumstances, they can have their maturity really questioned just because they seem like so youthful and attuned to their own inner child. And they also can be very playful and witty and sarcastic, really sarcastic with Virgo. And they can sometimes have like a really dry delivery where you're not sure if they're joking or not. You gotta be smart to get their jokes. And they're also someone who is very grounded and organized. Like, they can't stand clutter. They're going to like stop and look around the room and be like, what can I clean up? What can I fix? What can I improve? And that is kind of like a main word for Virgo, is improvement, because they cannot stand like inefficiency or like ignoring a very obvious problem. Instead, like, they turn themselves into problem-solving experts. Like, if you are running a restaurant, for example, and it's just going to crap, like, you call the Virgo in and you have them say, find the problem and help me fix it. That's what Virgo is for. So when they're not solving problems for other people, they are super into crafts, anything that they can do with their hands, and anything that allows like a repetitive, meditative process, like knitting or crochet or artwork of any sort of kind. That is something that they really enjoy and brings a lot of calm to their nervous system, because Virgos can be super nervous and anxious. When it comes to fashion, Virgo risings are maybe one of the more difficult ones to pin down, but they tend to prefer clothing that is classic opposed to what is trendy. So instead of looking at what is trending online on TikTok and a magazine, they're going to say, what is something classic that is going to last me for years? And they will go invest in like a high quality jacket or some high quality boots that are going to last them a long time. And they tend to choose function over fashion, something that is utilitarian and is going to get the job done and help them in whatever their activities are. If they're gardening, you know, they gotta have some good boots. It doesn't matter if they're cute. Virgo knows they're cute, okay? And they can also be like fans of monochrome colors. For example, like my nails are pink, my shirt's pink, my eyeshadow is pink. They will choose a color and go all in on that color. And they also prefer like sharp, elegant lines, like a clear cat eye eyeliner, a sharp heel, or like a slick black jacket. But there is also another type of Virgo rising that is more like nature-y. My granola Virgos, and they're gonna be like dressed up in North Face and Patagonia and thrifted clothing that they find at the thrift store. Virgos are also the most likely to thrift their outfits. And they also most likely have a ridiculous amount of jackets. Virgos love jackets for some reason. I don't know, they do. So that's what I got for Virgo rising. If you are someone who is a Libra rising, then you are someone who at first glance appears to be very social, very friendly, and an excellent communicator with a voice that is articulate and smooth and magnetic and just draws people in with the things that you have to say. Your delivery is cool, it's logical, it's reasonable, it's fair. It's kind of like you could be spilling complete bullshit and yet it's convincing and people are like, no, Libra, they know their stuff. They really do. So I hate to say it, but Libras are excellent liars, but they are also excellent actors, singers, musicians, public speakers, politicians. Like, they know how to say what needs to be said in a way that just makes people melt or gets them fired up or gets them excited, but they're also really good at making people calm the fuck down, which is so important because that's what Libra wants, okay? That is what Libra wants more than anything else, is for everyone to just calm down and get along. So even though Libra gets this kind of reputation for being a bit of a party girl, they also are someone who cares so deeply about justice and morals and principles, and they have like a strict set of principles that they live by, and they expect other people in their life to follow as well. And they are not someone who's going to look the other way when they see something bad or wrong is happening. Instead, they may be one of the first people to step up and be like, hey, do we really need to do this? Is there a better way to figure this out where more people can be included and treated fairly? And that is really what it comes down to with Libra, is they want things to be fair and justified and logical and reasonable. And they want everyone to eat a cake of sunshine and rainbows and just get along already. Which is kind of how Libra gets this reputation for being a bit of a mediator, or someone who can bring balance back to very chaotic situations, because they can diffuse conflict with a well-timed joke, or by making fun of themselves, or like pointing out something that's a little silly. Like, if they are between two people fighting, they know the exact right thing to say to just make everyone go, wait a minute, let's reconsider our options here. Great thing about Libra is they're an excellent ally to have on your side, because they are networking experts. They know everybody. They don't stay in one place. And they know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that can help you. So if you're ever feeling lost, yes, ask a Virgo, but Libra knows somebody who knows somebody, okay? And they are also someone who's willing to like go the extra mile to make other people happy, sometimes to their own detriment, unfortunately. But they really just want other people to have a good time, and they want things to go to according to plan, and they want to enjoy the finer things in life. They want to have the music, they want to put on their performance, and they can't do that if you are arguing, so shut up. Libra rising, a Venusuasian. They like to wear clothing that makes a fashion statement, but in a way that is classic with a romantic flair. So they're going for that nude heel, okay? They're going for that classic body contrast with that smooth silk, you know. They want to look elegant and sophisticated, and honestly, like, they want to look like they got the money. Even if they don't have the money, they want to look like they got it going on. They like the brand names. They like to like have the extra oomph, you know. So soft lines, soft fabrics, usually like lighter colors or neutral tones, or like soft pinks. They look excellent in anything they wear. Again, very conventionally attractive, Libras. But a suit is like a weapon to Libra, okay? Everyone falls at Libra's knees when they're wearing a suit or a very specific dress. So don't underestimate the Libras, okay? They want you to think that they're just cute, but they are actually so smart as a whip, cool, reasonable, logical, calculated, and they know exactly the right thing to say to shift the tides of a room. So keep your eyes on Libra. They are very powerful, all right? So that's what I've got for Libra. If you are a Scorpio rising, then you are someone who at first glance appears to be very reserved, very magnetic and mysterious, someone who seems like they have a lot of secrets. And the reason for this is Scorpio is not someone who offers up their opinion freely or comments on things unnecessarily. Instead, they prefer to like save their conversational energy for their inner circle and people that they know pretty well already, because they're just not willing to invest in like the random person at the grocery store. Instead, they want to save their energy for their favorite people. So everyone else gets a side of them that is very like, okay. Like, they look like they could not care less. They don't want to be there. They're not paying attention. They've got their headphones in. They don't care. So this can be very intimidating to people who are like naturally suspicious or distrustful of others. They're going to try and clock Scorpio as someone who has some terrible dark secret of something to hide, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't want to share their feelings with you because they don't know you. Scorpio's a very private person, and they do not kiss and tell, okay? You have to earn their attention and their affection and their time and their energy. But when you do get them to open up, their self-expression is very direct and honest and determined. And they're not someone who is like, oh, I don't know how I feel. They know how they feel and they know what they think. And they're going to tell it like it is, which is why they only trust themselves to speak around people that they already know and trust, because they don't have the energy to fight you and they don't want to. But all of that aside, Scorpio risings are incredibly sensitive and intuitive and artistic. Like, these are Knight of Cups, lover girl, lover boy. They're making you a playlist. Like, they feel everything so deeply and passionately, and they just need people who can match that energy. And they also like to wear darker clothing for the most part. They're the most likely to wear black on black day in and day out, maybe because they have a job where they have to work behind the scenes, or because they just don't want to draw attention to themselves, or they're obsessed with gothic cinema and metal music, or like they have like very specific things that they get into. But this is not true for all Scorpio risings. I have met some Scorpio risings that are like, I'm a rainbow. So take it with a grain of salt, but typically they tend to go for something dark, something classic, something that they don't have to mix up too much. Once they find a style that is comfortable and functional, they're likely to stick with it for the majority of their life instead of changing it up too much, unless they have some sort of special event, and then they are going to show off, hands down. Scorpio is also the most likely to have a zodiac tattoo, right behind Leo. They love getting scorpion tattoos. They love getting little M with the little arrow on it. Scorpios are very proud to be Scorpios, and they want you to know that they're a Scorpio, and they're gonna let you know just as much as Leo's gonna let you know. So yeah, that is mostly pretty much everything that I have for Scorpio. If you're someone that is a Sagittarius rising, then you're someone who at first glance appears to be very energetic, very lively, very optimistic, and you have like this overpowering lust for life and everything that it has to offer that can be very infectious to the people around you. This is definitely like a fun-loving sign that is looking for a good time, that enjoys being on the move and seeking out new experiences. They're always down for a new adventure, no matter what it is, as long as they get to tell a good story afterwards. And they're also someone who kind of has a big mouth. They can be very loud. Like, you can hear Sagittarius from across the room, maybe even from across the park, because when they are excited, they are fucking excited, okay? They are yelling, they're loud. And the thing is, they just feel everything so big and they get so excited that they literally cannot contain their emotions. That feels so much bigger than them most of the time. Their self-expression is very direct, it's very jovial, and it's full of conviction. So something very important to know about Sagittarius rising is that they have strong morals and beliefs and values that they live their life by, that they swear by, that they are loyal to, but they are like freaking devoted to what they think and what they believe. So if they are religious, they're not just kind of religious, they're like religious. And if they're more new age spiritual, then they've got their crystals out, okay? Like, they care so deeply about the world and the things that interest them that they don't do anything by halves. They whole ass everything, or they don't do it at all. And they also someone who looks for symbolism in their everyday life. It matters to them if they see a certain kind of butterfly while they're out. It matters to them if they see like repeating angel numbers. Like, these are the type of things that Sagittarius just freaking loves and eats up like crazy. And they view themselves as someone who is very like philosophical, an eternal student, someone that wants to learn everything all of the time. So they probably read a lot. And if they don't, then they watch a lot of documentaries and podcasts and are always trying to put themselves in new situations. There is very little comfort zone with Sagittarius rising because they're always pushing themselves out of it. And they're also like always on the hunt for some sort of like spiritual or just like life wisdom. You know, like there's like this search for truth, and they're always like wanting to discover something new, and they're on the search for like that novelty of that new thing, of that new truth, of that new understanding or new way of thinking or the new school of thought. Like, they're always trying to kind of like find the best way or the most right way or the most spiritually evolved way, or whatever it is that your particular Sagittarius is like interested in. They devote themselves to that thing so heavily. It's not just a belief, it's a lifestyle for Sagittarius. So something else with Sagittarius is they tend to like more casual or athletic clothing that allows them to move about, or they'll go for like a bohemian flair or an alternative edge. They really like to kind of like embody that free-spirited, carefree, always on the move, but spiritually enlightened type of like Coachella stuff. I don't know. But they probably have a new age phase. They've probably, looked into a bunch of different religions and beliefs. And they like to wear accessories that kind of symbolize their beliefs or their experiences, or even maybe a special experience that they had. So they may have like a special necklace or like a special ring or like something that symbolizes their devotion to that belief or that mindset and reminds them of their goals. Because even though they can be very easily distracted and full of wanderlust and want to go out and do all of the things, they usually have like that one special thing that they just hold so close to their heart. So yeah, fashion has to be something that allows them to move around a lot, and something that says, I'm different. So that's what I have for Sagittarius rising. If you are a Capricorn rising, then you are someone who appears to be reserved, practical, and prudent at first glance. In fact, you may seem like someone that is so ambitious and so dedicated to your work that you simply don't have time to slow down and enjoy life or your friends or your family, because you are so focused on what it is you're trying to accomplish in life. And that is because Capricorns are dreamers, okay? They have big dreams that they want to accomplish, and they are very aware, perhaps more than everyone else, that there is a limited amount of time in the world and in life to accomplish what you want to do. And they also tend to have goals that require lots of self-discipline and self-mastery. Like, they're not the type of person that is like, when I grow up, I want to be a gardener. Instead, they're like, I want to be an architect and build the tallest building in New York. Like, they have something crazy that they imagine in their mind that seems impossible because they don't have the right resources or the right connections, but they dedicate their life to that thing, and they're so focused on that thing that it feels like they're kind of letting the other things about life kind of pass them by. So it's very important for Capricorns to slow down and appreciate the finer things in life. But it is difficult for them because they do feel a lot of pressure on their shoulders and a lot of responsibility, usually not just them, but responsibility for the other people in their lives as well. So that being said, their self-expression can be very dry and direct, but it's also humorous and honest. Like, Capricorns are hands down some of the funniest people I've ever met. And the thing about it is, like, it can be difficult to tell when they're joking because their delivery is so dry. They just like slip a comment in there and act like it's nothing, but it's like the funniest thing they've ever said. So you have to pay close attention to what Capricorns say and even what they don't say, because they're not people who like talk out of their ass or talk superfluously. Instead, they are very concise and say only what needs to be said. And so you gotta catch it, because it's either really important or it's gonna make you laugh. So Capricorn fashion is usually simple, it's functional, it's classic. They go for those elegant lines, like a classic suit, a classic dress, something that is going to like withstand trend cycles. They don't care about the trends. Similar to Virgo, they are going to say, what is going to last me the next decade, the next 20 years, the next 30 years, and they're going to save up and invest in statement pieces that are going to carry them throughout their life and make it very clear that they're not here to play around. They know who they are, they know what they want, and no one can get in their way. And so they're fond of earth tones, neutral tones, lightweight fabrics, or sometimes they can be into like really expensive name brand clothing. They like to show off, especially because they work so hard. They like to be like, and this is what I worked for, you know. But they also want like clothing that is going to allow them to move around and be functional at the same time, especially if they have a job that requires like a physical labor. Like, they're not going to go buy something fancy that isn't going to suit that job because they don't see the point in it. can be utilitarian like that. They also don't like excessive accessories or super bright colors, and instead they tend to lead towards minimalist styles, maybe small jewelry, things that make a quiet, elegant statement rather than loud and flashy. So that's what I have for Capricorn. If you are an Aquarius rising, then at first glance you are someone who appears to be very eccentric, very sociable, and definitely has a rebellious streak. There's something about Aquarius that is always trying to test and push the limits of what is considered socially acceptable or the norm or traditional. They simply just want to do everything their own way, no matter what that thing is. And there is also like usually something about Aquarius's like physical features that is very striking and unique. And it's not the same as like a Venezuelan where they're like conventionally attractive in the dominant culture. Instead, it's something that is like totally different and unique to them that you won't see anywhere else. So they may have like very prominent nose or like super piercing eyes that seem to stare right through you. I know an Aquarius that has like a very large beard that draws people's attention, or they could be like super tall. Like there's always something about an Aquarius that when you're walking by, you have to stop and be like, wait a minute, who is that? I need to know. So Aquarius is just walking to the beat of their own drum, no matter the scenario. And they, in their self-expression, they tend to be very like cool and detached. They can be very logical when they're delivering their ideas, but don't get it twisted. They're very idealistic and very imaginative and very intelligent, and they are very good at thinking in abstract concepts, things that do not yet exist, or things that only exist within a digital space, are things that they're very good at grasping and articulating and building upon. So any type of technology, they're super good with the majority of the time. And they enjoy kind of like using their intellect as a means of connecting with other people. So they're not the most affectionate, despite being super friendly. Instead, they're attracted to another person's intellect and the way that they think and the way that they communicate. And they're the type of person to be like, oh, your mind, it's so hot. So if you want to get with Aquarius, you have to be like really smart and special. So the other thing about Aquarius is that they like to break the rules. I don't know how else to say that. I am not talking on Aquarius. I love Aquarius, but they look at rules as like guidelines instead of hard rules that they have to follow. And they're always kind of like bending them to their own view of things. And so they can be very interesting to talk to because they have perspectives that are just eccentric and unique. And there's no other way to put that. But when it comes to Aquarius fashion, they're going to do something that is a little weird, that is a little different. They may have like some kooky glasses, or they may like to wear like high patterned shirts or like accessories. But at the same time, they also tend to go for like simple, clean lines that are easily workable into other things. Like definitely like shorts and a t-shirt is the Aquarius uniform. I don't know why, it just kind of is. But then they're gonna go like dye their hair blue or something crazy like that. And they're also the second most likely to thrift a lot of their clothes behind Virgo. They like finding the weird, silly things that no one else has, and putting their own little special spin on it. Yeah, so that's what I got for Aquarius. If you are a Pisces rising, then you are someone who at first glance appears to be very dreamy and intuitive and artistic. Someone who seems like a very passionate but moody artist who is like so deep into their artistic pursuits that sometimes People have to ground you and pull you back to reality a little bit. Pisces risings tend to have like these big, emotional, expressive eyes that you can just sink into. So gorgeous, so gorgeous. And there's like a softness and a sweetness to their expression that is very endearing. And so it's very easy to fall in love with the Pisces rising because they are so in love with life and so connected to their inner child and the part of themselves that wants to create things. Something you'll notice about Pisces risings is they are the type of people to have like mentally built up like different fantasy worlds and their own characters and their own settings and things that they can just like live inside that fantasy world in their mind indefinitely until someone again comes and yanks them out. So they have a deep interest in spirituality and all things whimsical and strange and fantastical. So definitely heavy readers, heavy movie watchers, you know, whatever they can like deep dive into and live within artistically is something that they enjoy. And their self-expression is very imaginative and idealistic. But it can also be a little bit offbeat. Like Pisces has like a very poetic and almost romantic self-expression where you have to like stop and think about what they're saying because it's not always obvious upon the surface. It requires like some thought and some consideration of what Pisces is trying to say. And it's because they've put a lot of thought and consideration into what they're saying to you. So definitely someone you want to kind of like slow down and like really like let yourself be inside their world because the world is like so rich and detailed, and you could disappear with Pisces into a cottage for 3 months and never be bored. So Pisces themselves, again, romantic, compassionate, affectionate. They have a deep love for the world around them, for plants and animals and everyone that they meet, and they feel very protective of those things. Like they have a strong sense of justice, and they cannot stand seeing other people hurt or seeing other people in pain without stepping up to say something or to do something about it. And they just wear their hearts on their sleeves every day of their life. Pisces fashion, they like to wear clothing that shows off their artistic qualities and sensitive personalities, is what I mean to say. They may try to like emulate a specific artist that they really enjoy or wear something that is like in devotion to their beliefs and their spirituality. They tend to wear a lot of like bright colors, something whimsical, something silly, something that says, I'm in tune with my inner child, I'm in tune with my emotions, and the world is my oyster. It is what I want it to be. And it's slightly delusional, but in the best sort of way. So that's what I have for Pisces rising, and that is literally all of the signs. So if you liked this, give me a like, give me a comment, subscribe, let me know what I should do next. Thanks, y'all.